fixed.
Yeah.
So we did the same thing this time. We went live early, make sure everything was set up,
and
had the audio work 2 different ways, and then stop working.
Yeah. So
2 different ways.
It started and then it stopped. So I don't know. If somebody could figure out what our problem was,
Teach us to YouTube.
Yeah, we would appreciate it. We'd appreciate it. So,
That's right.
Good morning.
Morning.
Officially again. Welcome to Morning Sip. What is new?
What is new?
What's new?
Well, I mean, except for the fact that, like, today was crazy. Before that, felt good overall. Good week. I think this week, for me anyways, and like Megan and I were talking about this too, this week it got to the point like at the end of this last week where it was like, okay, I think I'm good. I think I'm ready to go back into the world now. So, got a little more time as they've just extended it. But was definitely feeling like, yeah, this was good. We're good. We're done.
All right,
we're done.
we're done.
Yeah.
We're finished with this.
Yeah, so I think we're not. But
Unfortunately, yeah, no.
there's more, but it will end at some point. That's what I keep saying. Like, even like talking to my kids, my little kids, it's like, at some point this is going to end. Like, it's not going to be forever. We're not going to be inside forever.
Right.
Like, yeah, they just pushed it out to the end of April, but even then, it's not forever.
Yeah.
These things will pass. It'll go back to normal at some point.
Yeah.
So we have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did your first week of all of your virtual meetings?
Virtual meetings were good. They
Yeah.
were, except for this one. Yeah. The last ones were all good. We did pretty good with them. I think it's weird. I think we've all agreed that it's weird.
Yeah.
But at least we have this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I know I've already said it like a million times, but I keep thinking like 10 years ago would have been totally different.
What we have done.
We just sat at home alone.
Write each other letters.
That's true, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have taken
Does anyone do that anymore?
forever.
Maybe.
Yeah.
How about you? How did
You're
yours
like those owls from like Harry Potter that come and drop like the mail.
Mhm.
If we had a bunch of those, we'd be good.
Just gotta train some owls, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could train some owls.
Be fun.
My week was good. The surviving of the first week of virtual meetings went pretty well. We did a thing when in one of our Zoom calls where we played Pictionary and Heads Up, and it was super fun to play that. It felt more like, I mean, obviously it's still kind of like we're sheltering in place, right? But it felt more like normal, I guess. It felt more like when hanging out with people instead of just talking to them or whatever. So that was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing that again on our Zoom game night. My sons came home yesterday. They've been at their grandparents' since all of this started.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah. So I got no work done yesterday at all, and this morning I was trying to figure out how I'm gonna get them to stay busy while I'm
That's
doing
the word.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shout out to all the homeschool parents, by the way. Man, yeah. A 3-year-old, the 5-year-old being at home when they should be at school
Right.
is quite the challenge. So looking at all the parents who homeschool a little bit differently and appreciating them some more. And Sunday, was it Sunday? Yeah, it was Sunday. Pastor Charles challenged me to create my first TikTok video.
That's right.
So that happened this
Yeah.
week, and it went about as well as your first TikTok video should go.
In
I
the
guess.
sense of
I have no
memorable,
idea.
it was effective. I was telling Will before we started that now Gangster's Paradise has been in my head since Sunday now.
Now I gotta pick a song that I want to.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Effective.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. So that went well.
All right, so we got Emily. Her only virtual fail was forgetting it was Monday and missing a 3-hour class. So there you go.
Oh,
We're all in this
that's
boat together.
Yeah.
Ethan's missed some classes too. Megan liked your TikTok video. So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that says something.
I
I
good.
appreciate it.
Success.
I appreciate it. Yeah. No, I appreciate
It
it.
is kind of weird. Like, I feel like even just going out, I don't normally go on walks a lot because usually I'm at church and then I get home, it's dinner time, put the kids to bed, and then that's it. But been doing more walks and things like that, which has been kind of nice. Trying to keep the distance from people. We got to keep socially distant, which is weird.
Yeah.
But I will say, so just down from us a little bit is a school, and what was super weird is walking by there, and there's 1,000 kids on the playground, and parents just hanging out. I don't think
No,
I don't think they're
that's-
doing it right.
Yeah, you guys are not social distancing correctly.
The kids are already germ factories, so like that just was
Right.
like
having all
I veered
those
the other
kids.
direction. Like I'm going back this way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is kind of weird, like seeing, like even seeing as a coach, like seeing some of like my players and like them like posting pictures like on Instagram, and I'm just like, shouldn't you guys be at home?
Right.
You know, like why are you guys out?
Stay home, people.
You know,
Just stay home.
yeah,
Right.
it's, I don't know, it's kind of frustrating a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, because obviously the more that people like don't do this, then like if we're not doing this together, then like it's not going to happen. We're not
Right.
going to flatten the curve.
Flatten
That's
the curve.
phrase that
That's what
we're
they keep
hearing
saying.
over and over again. So
That's right.
yeah, the point is stay at home.
Stay home,
All right,
yeah.
find something to do. There's a bunch of things that we can do together collectively. Connect again with people, real people, but just physical distancing is what I heard.
Exactly, yeah.
Gavin Newsom say that he's like, okay, we're not social distancing anymore because you guys are not doing that well. So just physical distancing is what we're gonna.
It's like a parent telling their children, like, all right, you need to go in separate rooms. That's enough. You're not playing nicely. You're not following the rules.
There's at my house, and there's like I can't remember what day it was, but there's like there's clearly like a party happening at like one of my neighbors' houses. I'm just like, what is going on?
What are you doing?
You guys. So anyway, it's
weird.
Stay home. All
Stay
right?
home. That's the moral of the story. Stay
That's
home.
the point.
Yeah.
We all can do our part and do our share by distancing ourselves from.
And that's one thing I've actually been thinking about. So as we're going through like First Peter, the next section we're going to get to, I was reading it this morning, talks about like being submissive to governing authorities.
Mhm.
And I've shared with some of you before that like that's a tough thing for me in the sense of if a rule feels arbitrary, or if a
Mhm.
rule feels like just to me stupid, I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And I know some of the guys have been working on me for a lot of years, but it's like that kind of thing too. Of like, this is a huge way that Christians can be examples
Yeah.
of like actually, being submissive to governing authorities. Whether or not we agree, whether or not we think it's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Best case scenario, we're overreacting.
Right.
That'd be great, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like one of those things of like showing how we can lead the way on something,
Yeah.
on being submissive.
Yeah. The thing is, like, if nothing happens, then like we did the
It's
right
like, then we did the right thing, right? Yeah.
But we'll never know. Like,
Exactly.
if nothing happens, then we did the right thing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like
kinda one of
that's
those
what we're
weird-
hoping for. Yeah. And so yeah, it is. It's kind of a interesting.
The street is dead quiet. It's normally busy.
Streets.
Ethan says that term makes more sense. That term you mentioned.
The physical distancing
distance, yeah.
instead of social distancing.
And
Yeah.
shelter in place still means nothing to me. I still understand that, but
Yeah, no, I got that. I was watching the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and he was interviewing Governor Newsom, and
Okay.
that's Governor Newsom's term is like we're moving away from social distancing, and it's kind of sad, but he was like it's because of like the young people.
come on, guys, come on.
He's like-
One thing I'm saying though, and this is like a totally random thing that doesn't make any sense to anyone, but Will and I will laugh about it. But they keep talking about like, oh, the beaches are crowded with millennials and millennials. I'm like, no, we're too old.
Yeah,
we're not doing that.
Yeah, not at all. We're at
Stop
home-
blaming millennials.
We're at home with our kids.
Yeah.
We're responsible adults.
It is weird. It's
Yeah.
all weird. Everything's weird. But at some point it'll stop. That's what I keep saying. This will end at some point.
Yeah.
You can look like historically, like back when they had the Spanish flu and everything, like tons of people got it. It was a huge, big thing. But we talk about it as history now. Like it's still not going on. Like, this will pass at some point.
Yeah. This too.
This too
shall
will pass. It will. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Crazy. All right. What do we got? Oh yeah.
So what do we got
So-
for our segment in Today in History?
Today in history. This is a good one because you never know. Because some days not cool stuff happens. Some days are like today in history, boring. But today, this one on March 31st, which is today, a long, long time ago, the Eiffel Tower opened. Eiffel Tower. So in the 1800s, I forget what it was now, I didn't write it down. I think 1889, something like that. A long time ago. The Eiffel Tower opened. And the thing about the Eiffel Tower that's interesting is it was actually just done for the World's Fair. Like it was supposed to celebrate like the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution, and so they were gonna have the World's Fair, and they had the Eiffel Tower. And there's like hundreds of people who like applied different designs, and that one won.
Mm-hmm.
And it was some guy, he like did like the inside framework of the Statue of Liberty.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So maybe people thought like, hey, that looks cool.
let's get him.
Maybe he'll do that. But then he did the Eiffel Tower, which people didn't like actually. Like artists actually like protested it. They said like, this is an eyesore, this is ugly.
Was it so wait, it was the inside or like the actual?
The actual like structure of the Eiffel Tower, because he was like an expert at like trellising and like frame and all that kind of stuff. So he didn't do like the Statue of Liberty, the outside. He did the inside that supported it. And so he's like, yes, I will do this now. And like,
Was that your French accent?
that was my French accent.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very.
It's very.
I learned it from
like
Disney. So. But yeah, so they did it, and like a bunch of people were really mad and like actually protested and tried to get it to happen.
Yeah.
But they did it in 2 years. Built the whole thing in 2 years. Still there, and they did it under budget.
Wow.
Which, how often does a government project go under budget?
Yeah. No.
Or any project.
Very unlikely.
Yeah, like anything ever under budget.
Under budget.
It's crazy. I don't know. Has anyone ever been to the
Those-
Eiffel Tower? You
those
guys comment
words.
about that. I have not.
Yeah. No.
I've been overseas. I've been in Paris, but I was in the Paris airport, and I thought like, well, I'll just go outside and go like walk around Paris. And I went outside and it's like buy nothing. Like it's in Paris. So then I had to
The
go through
airport.
security. Yeah, I had to do like the whole thing all over again for nothing.
You
So
probably
that's
could have like saved yourself the security check by just like
not
looking on
anymore.
your phone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but at that time, phones were like flip phones.
Oh,
You know, it wasn't
okay.
like an internet phone. So
Oh, because this was a while ago.
it was a while ago.
Got it.
It was like 15 years ago,
Got it.
and it was not worth going outside.
Are
for
flip
that.
phones in museums? Like, are they like artifacts?
They should be.
You
Yeah, especially some of the ones that I remember seeing.
know?
Yeah, no one's been. Cause I feel like someone's got to been to the Eiffel Tower, or at least we've seen it,
Yeah.
seen pictures of it.
Seen pictures of it.
One more thing I thought was interesting though is that it was the tallest man-made structure in the world. It was almost 1,000 feet, and it stayed that way until America came along and we did the Chrysler Building in 1930. So it stayed for quite a while.
So I don't wait. So what does man-made structure mean?
I guess any building that.
Did they use Did they not use machines to build it? They had to have, right?
I think so, but like mountains are taller, I guess. You know,
Oh, I got
natural.
you. I got you. So like
things.
natural. Okay.
So
Okay.
taller than like pyramids,
So-
taller than.
The tallest man-made
Structure.
structure. Got it.
Oh, and
structure is the word.
so it was protested, right? So like now it's actually the most visited like national monument. Like over 7 million people a year go visit a paid monument. So it's huge now. Like everyone thinks like it's amazing. People think of Paris, they think of that. Like even like my 7-year-old's like, oh yeah, that's in Paris. Protested against, and 20 years later it was almost destroyed. Because the land they put it on was just leased by the government for 20 years, and then afterwards they're like, well, gotta take it down. But the only reason they kept it is because they used it as a giant radio tower. So thank goodness radio came about. So they're like, this gets pretty good reception. We gotta keep this thing up. So they kept it, and then sure enough, now everyone's happy that they did.
Got it. I'm
Yeah.
sure that now it's used as like a Wi-Fi,
That'd be great. Probably all of like France gets Wi-Fi off that
yeah,
thing.
for sure.
Yeah.
From that like one little spot.
So there you go. Today, Eiffel Tower opened.
Cool.
Thank you, France.
It just so happens that today it's also closed.
It is very much closed today. So
2020.
celebrating its anniversary, whatever how many years that is, by no one going to it.
All right, so now we're going to move to our segment, profits or profits. All right, profit or profits. So go ahead and get ready to take a guess. All right, I only got 2 today, but these are 2 good ones, okay? So the first one is, Father, show me the way because the devil is trying to break me down. Do you think that that is in the Bible, or was it written for profits?
So they got to do what was it? If it's
A B if it's in the Bible, or $sign if
Dollar
you
sign.
think it is
if it's
profits.
profits.
So B, put it. Go ahead and comment. Put a B in the comments if you think it's Bible, $sign, money sign. If you think it is
profit fingers.
profit fingers. I couldn't find. I looked for one after I watched our video, and I went back and looked for profit fingers. Couldn't find a.
Can you get
profit
rich
fingers
off of making an emoji? Because we should do that.
I definitely think you can.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ask your buddy at Google.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we got some $signs coming in. $sign. I think they're thinking profits.
They're thinking $sign. Okay, so if you guessed profits, you are correct. You're correct, actually.
Well,
it is. It sounds biblical. No, but that's actually lyric from Kanye West's song "Jesus Walks."
you go.
So obviously,
Man, it's going old school.
a little bit of
Let's go back.
a little bit of a biblical reference there. Of course, Kanye grew up in church and has a lot of background history. And then he walked away like the prodigal son, and it seems like he's back.
Which is kind of cool, like a full circle thing.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember when Jesus Walks came out, I remember like people being like, there's this rapper, I think he might be a Christian.
Yeah.
Like when that was first like a thing.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, people were like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah, probably not.
and then now it's like, well, maybe, you know.
It's like, oh yeah.
It's kind of taking a little curvy path. But
Yeah, no, yeah, it's kind of funny talking about that full circle thing. So, okay, so this next one, okay, pay attention. It says, he said it's hard for a rich man to get in heaven. When we feel like we don't need God, then we forget him.
Bible,
Bible?
dollar sign,
Dollar sign.
pride fingers. What do we got? Got a dollar sign. Coming in slowly.
Dollar sign. Uno.
That may have been a previous one. Dollar sign. I've noticed that, by the way,
I'm going to read it again. Go ahead.
YouTube is a lot more quick. I've noticed that Instagram Live,
The
it's
feed
behind.
is like a little behind.
So we gotta just talk really slow
Oh, to get
and just like do our motions. No, that doesn't actually do anything.
But we have to take our time because we don't know what's coming in.
There we go.
It's not really coming in
A
live.
question came in about that one though. So we got $2 signs already, and they said, is that an exact quote or a paraphrase?
This is an exact quote.
Exact quote, people.
That's a
Exact
good question.
quote.
So I'll read it again because that's a good question. And I understand why you're asking that question, whoever asked it. So he said, it's hard for a rich man to get in heaven. When we feel like we don't need God, then we forget him.
It's good. It's a good one.
I feel like that. Yeah, this is a little bit of a challenging one. I think probably for some.
We're getting dollar signs, dollar sign, dollar sign.
All right. Okay, so it sounds like you guys got it. So that is a line, a verse that comes from Andy Mineo. So it is a prophet, or for-profit, but it directly references Matthew 19:23 when Jesus himself says, it's hard for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. So there it is. That's why it sounds a little confusing. Andy Mineo is one of my favorite artists and rappers, and he puts out a lot of good content and stuff like that. So I thought that was perfect for what we were doing today, and both of our verses today were for profit, which we still haven't talked about whether or not it's okay to.
Right. Yeah, we gotta figure that one out.
Yeah, so that's a little challenging, but either way.
Someone asked what Bible translation you're using. The Andy Mineo version.
The Andy Mineo version. That's a good question. Yeah, so, I didn't, none of them came out of the Bible, so I didn't use the Bible translation.
So they were both prophets.
They're both for
Both of them.
profit. Dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign.
And now we got about, I think, I'm estimating here, I think it's about a 15 to 20 second delay.
Uh-huh. Oh,
So,
that's
what we're
true.
going to have to do for icebreakers, you guys need to tell me if you want me to do have you ever, unfinished sentences, or give me 5. And then I'm going to have to wait like 20 seconds for
To
them to
get
see
all
that, think about it, and then
and
comment
then get
back.
all the responses.
So meanwhile, we'll just
You and I could just talk for a little
drink
bit.
some coffee and talk some more until you guys start commenting on what we should do.
Yeah, so I don't know. If I had a choice, again, the one that kind of scares me the most, it just depends on the question is have you ever? That's
Those can also be the most fun too.
no,
Those
I
are
think
a tough one.
I think that's what's the first one even say? They usually put someone the cover. Oh, yeah. See, that's a good one.
We did give me 5 last time, I think.
Yeah.
What if is my favorite still out of all of them, I think.
Yeah.
That's one I like a lot. We got unfinished sentences. Oh, someone said let's do have you ever. I think they're going just because you said that.
Oh, well, I was hoping that they would be in before I said that.
Have you
because
ever?
of the delay.
I think we got to do have you ever now.
All right.
You brought it upon yourself, Will.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, ready? Tell me when to stop. All right, left or right?
All right.
All right, and then 1 or 2. Only 2 on that side.
Let's go with 2.
2. All right, so
Lash will be first.
have you ever gotten separated from your parents in a large place, like a mall or amusement park, and had your name or your parents' name paged over the loudspeaker? Have you ever been separated and had your name or your parents' name paged?
Oh,
I think you could also spin this
yeah.
around if it was like, or has it ever happened to your own kids? So because we got both sides.
Yeah, we got both sides of it. So for sure, it's never happened to my kids. I wouldn't allow them to. So, but so I grew up. My mom was a single mother, and I grew up spending a lot of time with my mom in like department stores, like, like Ross and Mervyn's and like
Oh,
you
it was
know
Mervyn's. I forgot about
Kmart
Mervyn's.
and
Yeah.
oh yeah. What's the other one? Marshalls, TJ Maxx, like all those places, right? So the answer is yes to the question, and
Emily said yes as well.
yeah,
That's
no,
awesome.
for sure. So what I would often do, because when we went to these places, and my mom was like, you know, and this was when I was, I don't know, at least 10 or 11, so I was like, you know, fairly responsible. My mom would just let me. I mean, this was early 2000s, I guess, late 90s, early 2000s.
It was a different time, people.
So yeah, it was before like, you know, people were getting like kidnapped all
Right.
the time, and you know, you were worried about stuff like that. But yeah, no, she would just let me go, and I would go like in either in like the toy section or like the book section, and she knew that she could find me in like one of those two places in those stores. And I can't remember like the exact time of like what happened, but basically I was somewhere where I was not supposed to be. I think maybe I went to go look for her instead of her coming to look for me, maybe, and we got lost. And so I was like freaking out for a while, and then they were just like, would William Staley please come to? And I was just like, oh snap, I'm in trouble. So yeah, that did happen to me when I was, I don't know, 11 or 12 or something like that. And I want to say it was TJ Maxx, either TJ Maxx or Marshalls.
One of those ones.
One of those two stores, yeah.
Ethan says no. Ellis is definitely. Nicole or Derek said one of the gardeners. They've gotten lost, but I don't think paged. Emily said that her and Megan were separated at Toys R Us.
Oh.
Here's a good one. And they got their names called, but they didn't hear it. So then the employee started looking for them. They were just looking at Legos, which is a good place to be. Did you ever do the thing where you would like hide from your mom? Like I used to do it all the time, like I'm gonna hide. And then sometimes like when I'd like peek out and she'd be gone, I'm like, oh no!
No, never did that.
I do it all the time. Or like you know like the round clothing racks? Like I would always go inside with those, like get in the middle of them.
Oh yeah,
And, like, hide?
yeah.
I think I was being funny.
Yeah, no. So an embarrassing story. One time, well, I mean it's not embarrassing for me. I really could care less. But one time when I was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, so a little bit younger than I was talking about earlier. But I was like at least aware enough to know that like I can go and like shop and like you know buy stuff for people. It was around Christmas time. So my mom was like out like you know doing her thing at a store, and my mom tells me the story. She's like I'd come around the corner and I'd be like, "Hey mom, what size bra do you wear?" Like, like a 6 or 7 year old just like in the bras like section of like the department store. It's like super awkward. My mom was like, "Get over here."
What's the matter with you?
It's like I have a great
having
Christmas,
kids. Yeah.
practical Christmas
Right?
gift, you know.
You're just
So yeah, that was kind of funny. And then one time I had gotten in trouble because I stayed at school longer than I was supposed to, and this was like
doing homework or like playing?
no, I was like playing Pokemon cards. Me and like my 3 of my buddies, and then one of my friends went home and I was still playing or whatever, and I got in trouble, like a lot of trouble, like because I was there for I don't know maybe like 4 hours. There was like my mom like called the police and like you know there was like helicopters like looking for me, like all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah.
This is before cell phones sue people.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah, for sure. And yeah, I got in trouble, a lot of trouble.
that makes sense. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Hey,
I'm
have
gonna-
you ever worked out good? That's a good one.
It did. Okay, so I've got 5 of these things. I've
You
got
got a lot
what
of
if.
choices.
All right. Unfinished sentences. Name your favorites. More would you rather, and choose your top 3. Choose your top 3. All right.
5 choices.
5 choices. One of those 3.
I think last time
in
we
the
did.
comments.
We did what if last time. That was
we
the,
did. Yeah.
the colorblind one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That one was pretty fun.
That was good.
You know, it's funny that going back to as you're looking at those comments. Another thing is one of my friends, Alex Wilson. He does Insta Church Live. He's been doing that for a year now. It's kind of cool. He just used like an illustration last week, and he took a picture, or he used a picture of this kid. I don't know where he found it. It was a kid like in like Walmart, and apparently like the story is the kid had like lost his parents, and he like went to like the front of like the Walmart store, and he was just like praying, like like in the entrance where like all the baskets and all that stuff is, all like the red boxes and like claw games and all this.
Like praying he be found?
Like like just sitting down, like praying. Yeah, like he was like kneeling on like the bench. Like there's a picture of the kid like just kneeling at this bench, like praying. Like,
please don't let me get in trouble.
Lord, I know that you got this. I'm not worried at all. Please don't let me get in trouble. Yeah. So,
all right, looks like we're doing Would You Rather.
Okay.
Here we go.
Or Would You Rather. All right, ready? So I'm going to stop.
Right there.
Left or right?
I'm going to go left this time.
1, 2, 3, or 4.
I feel 2. I'm feeling 2 is going to be a good one.
Okay. This is funny. Would you rather watch the Weather Channel on a big screen TV all day, or watch the Super Bowl on a 2-inch black and white with no sound?
Wow. Those both seem like horrible options. So I have actually, like when like at an airport or something, they just like have the Weather Channel on TV for hours.
Yeah.
So I've watched the Weather Channel for several hours. And I will say, it's not just weather anymore. Like those like shows about like tornado chasers, and they've really branched out.
Yeah.
So because of that, I'll say Weather Channel.
The Weather Channel.
Because a 2-inch screen for Super Bowl, black and white, no sound.
2 inches is really small.
Man, that does not seem like that would be enjoyable.
And no sound. Yeah. Although the no sound thing would be like how our YouTube video started.
It's true. How several YouTube videos that we started.
Yeah, people were still tuned in, so it might be a thing.
We could just mime the whole thing.
With no sound though, maybe that means you get subtitles. Then you have to read on a 2-inch screen.
On a 2-inch screen?
Yeah.
Imagine like a long pass, like down the whole field. Like you wouldn't even see like the guys on the 2-inch screen. That would be.
Have you seen Zoolander?
Yes.
He's like, a center for ants.
What is it? It has to be at least 3 times the size.
It's like you're watching the ants play football.
So we got, wow, a lot of Weather Channel.
No way.
Hold on, Weather Channel. Weather Channel. It's actually interesting sometimes. I agree, right? Weather Channel, because there might be some good bloopers. That's actually true. One of my favorite things about like not just the Weather Channel, but weather like even for news, is when there's like a hurricane. So they go like on location, and the guy's like standing there like in a raincoat and like being blown around by. He's like, as you see, there's a hurricane. I don't know why you have to go on location to show how windy and cold it is, but they do it and it's funny.
Yeah. See, okay, so at least like if I'm gonna watch the weather, I have to watch it all day. Like that's a long time to be watching the Weather Channel.
Can you fall asleep? You take a nap during it.
No sleep for you.
All right. Well, there are some. Yeah, there's good. I need to check out bloopers of Weather Channel on YouTube. That's a great idea. And Matt says my eyes suck already. I agree. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, that's so true. It's gonna strain.
That has been the one thing about zooming. I've been enjoying zooming, but like a ton of little zoom things like this small. It's like
trying to see everyone.
I'm trying not to get too close to it. Like, who is that? Like, oh, hey! Like, yeah, that's not.
Yeah, no,
not been working out as I would have hoped. Oh, now we're gonna do some sermon recap. Hopefully, you guys saw the sermon. Yeah. Again, great sermon, great service. And hopefully you got to see it. If not, it is online. But we're going to talk a little bit about that now, kind of recap the things that jumped out to us from it.
Yeah.
This week, we were both at home.
Mm-hmm.
He was at his home. I was at my home watching. I was in my pajamas. I don't know about you.
Yes.
Yeah. Which was nice but weird. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have gone to church in my pajamas before, actually. We did a Christmas morning service when Christmas was on Christmas morning, and we said like, kids, come in your jammies. But I was like, come on, what, just kids? So Megan and I did too, which of course we did. I think we're the only adults, but it was fun.
Did anybody frown?
Probably. Yeah, I think so. Probably.
Being in your pajamas.
I have great Christmas pajamas though, so I didn't feel bad about it. Let's see. So this week the sermon was Pastor Kenton preached it, and it was 1 Peter 2:11 through 12. Called Pilgrims in a Foreign Land. I feel like one of us should have done like a synopsis of like the sermon. I didn't write that down, so.
Yeah, me neither.
It was on those verses.
Yeah.
And it was good.
Yeah, I didn't. Sorry.
Yeah, did you guys see it? Comments if you saw it. And if not, there's still time. What else are you gonna do with your time?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, so this is kind of interesting. I guess I'll point this out because some people have responded and replied to things like that, and we appreciate it. But every week after the sermon, we are going to do something brief that's really short and sweet on our Instagram page. and it's going to be either probably three things. I think that I like the three that we did this week. One was just like, what do you think? What stood out to you about the sermon? What is a question in regards to like the sermon this week's was, what in the world do you love? I think we'll talk about that too today. And then the third is, okay, from an action or application standpoint, like what are you going to do now after you? So like, what did you think? A question specifically from the sermon, and then now what are you going to do after hearing it? So
And that's really the key. I mean, it's like, what are we actually going to do?
right.
Any of this stuff, like even when we read the Bible on our own or whatever that kind of thing, it's like, what's the application? Like, okay, so what now? What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, and it was going back to like my buddy Alex. He does those like 10-minute sermons I was telling you about, and before he was doing like 10-second sermons. Like it was just like insane, right? Yeah, but like, and they're all just like it's boom, 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 and it's so focused on, okay, what's the point? Like, what's the why? Like, why are we even talking about this? And that's again, that's important to ask yourself at the end of like every time you hear somebody speak or like preach the word of God. Like, if it's alive, if it's living, then like there's something about this that like I should respond to, and I should respond in a bunch of different ways. Is it calling me to respond by physically going to do something? Is it calling me to respond by like spiritually changing some things that I'm doing? Is it calling me to respond to like pray more, to read my Bible more, to like connect with someone? Like what is the response to this after I hear it? And that's the whole point. Like, so what? What's the point?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good. Oh, one thing that jumped out, so before we even dive into the sermon text itself, it was just cool that was the 50th anniversary of campus. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah. So Pastor Jim got up and mentioned 50 years ago on that day, the church was started. And what a weird thing, like there's no way that any of them 50 years ago would have had any idea or like ever thought that we'd still be meeting as a church in our homes, watching on TVs. Like, I mean, that just was not anywhere near a concept that anyone ever would have seen.
Yeah, not even possible. I imagine, I imagine that 50 years ago, if you would have told them that like one day, the coronavirus would hit, and it would cause the church to close its doors, they'd be like, oh, well, that's probably gonna be the end of the church.
Yeah.
Like, how are we gonna?
How do you do church?
Yeah. How do you do church? Yeah. So
that's pretty crazy. Yeah. So that was I forget exactly the phrase that Pastor Jim used, but something along the lines of like, we are one church in 2 locations, but like right now we're in one church in like hundreds of locations.
Right.
Which is such a cool thing. Because the church is not a building.
It's the people.
It's the people.
And we're still the church.
That's right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So one thing that jumped out right away, it was near the start, Pastor Kate mentioned like, what are we searching for?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Like what's our ultimate, what do you say, ultimate destination?
Yeah.
I thought that was really good, like, focus thing of like, what are we searching for? What are we looking for? Because there's lots of things we can have as our ultimate goal.
And there's lots of things that we are searching for, apart from Christ. There's a lot there. I mean, even looking outside of Christianity, there's a lot of things that people are searching for, and that's what their pilgrimage like in this world is, And sometimes if we're not careful, we can get caught up in like what everyone else's pilgrimage is because of the way that it looks, or how attractive it looks, or how glamorous it could be or feel, or So like, I thought that I wrote down the exact same thing. I said everyone is on a pilgrimage.
Yeah, all seeking after something. And I think the temptation as Christians is always to be like, well, yeah, Jesus is my ultimate thing, which it should be. But sometimes we so easily place something next to him. So it's like, well, it's Jesus and this thing. Or sometimes we really do just easily place things above that, even things that are good.
Yeah.
Like even things like family, or things like work, or things like, school, whatever it might be. If we make that thing the ultimate thing instead of Jesus, then we're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So we need to keep that as the ultimate destination and then have everything fall in line underneath that.
Right.
It's a good reminder.
Right.
Especially right now when, again, things are weird and different and crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so what else you got?
I think that the reminder for that is, and I can't remember the translation that Pastor Kempton used, but it specifically said aliens, like the word aliens. Okay. So like the reminder of like, us being on this pilgrimage and like we're searching for something is like the reminder that we are like aliens in this world, or sojourners in this world, and many of the other translations, and he said that we're longing for our heavenly home.
Yeah.
And so, as we are like going about this, like our eyes or even like our hearts should constantly be set on like that longing and that desire to be with God in our heavenly home.
Yeah.
Once our time here is like done. And I think that again, that it kind of just that reminder, it shifts your perspective a little bit on like thinking about, okay, what are the things in this world that like I'm longing for, and are they all like related to me longing for my heavenly home?
So Ethan posted a little like alien head emoji,
Mm-hmm.
which I always actually think of when I hear the word alien, which kind of makes me think like, we're called aliens, other translations sojourners, I think, I forget what some of the other ones are. But the idea is something that is, not from here, not normal to this.
Right.
And so I usually think of like Men in Black or those kind of movies, like with aliens that are like these very different looking creatures that stand out. And kind of later on, Pastor Kent mentioned that like what we do should stand out.
Right.
I mean, like if a literal like gray head, big eye alien walked down the street, all of us would notice.
Like, what is that?
And like especially today, like everyone would have their phones out, like recording, like posting, like it would blow up instantly because it would be so weird.
Yeah.
It would stand out. And I mean, I'm not saying that Christians have to be like weird in that sense, but something different, something that stands out, something that's like, hey, something's different about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the verbiage. I love the illustration. I love the alien head. I think that I posted on my Instagram like that verse that morning, and then I just put like that alien like emoji as the caption, and that was it.
Yeah.
I love like that again that reminder, because sometimes when you have like an illustration, it kind of simplifies things.
Totally. Yeah.
And what you said is like that there's no way that an alien, unless it had like the ability to blend in, like wouldn't stand out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess now I'm like getting into details about like the
About aliens.
the nuances of aliens. Right? The point is that.
But that would be the point, right?
Yeah.
If they were trying to blend in, the point would be to not stand out.
Right.
Which,
Yeah.
and it still applies. The deeper we go, this just works.
Yeah.
It still applies because as Christians, our goal should not just be to simply blend in.
Right. Yeah.
So we shouldn't be like the sneaky aliens in movies. Be like the ones that are really obvious,
Yeah.
but not weird.
Yeah.
It all works. Every illustration at some point falls apart, but
Right.
that one's pretty solid. That's airtight. Yes, there you go, Ethan. Christians should have a holy weirdness.
Holy weirdness.
I'll embrace that. Holy weirdness.
Holy weirdness.
That works.
All right. I'm gonna write that down.
We're weird, but holy. That's good. So the whole aliens and strangers things jumped out to me, and the big thing I underlined in my notes was like that this is not our home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the big thing. It's that bigger perspective. Any decision we do, anything, if we just keep it focused on just like the here and now, we're going to live very differently than if we keep that bigger perspective. And it's a challenge, I think,
Yeah.
because the here and now is what's here and now,
Right.
what's in front of us.
Right.
So it's a challenge to keep that mindset, but I think that's why we need reminders like that, why the Word has things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I haven't seen the movie E.T. in a long time, and I want to go watch it.
You know they were going to make a sequel to that?
They recently?
No, like way back when they were kind of, and they didn't.
Decided not
But
to.
yeah, which is probably good.
I don't know. I'm just thinking about like phoning home, like trying to get
Right.
home. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in a while, but I think that like the premise is that he's trying to get home, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's spending all of this time, trying
So
to get
we're
back
basically
to
E.T.
his home.
Yeah. This is not our home.
We're extraterrestrials. I feel like there's a song. I don't know. I might be able to find it. I feel like there's a song that kind of like.
That lines up with that.
Yeah. And-
If not, there should be.
yeah.
Someone's got to get to work on that. Oh man, so for me the thing that really jumped out was the text that Pastor Kenton got from his friend. Remember that part when he was like reading like all the things that his friend said, and essentially the thing that I wrote down and like really jumped out is that in the midst of all this corona craziness, God has taken away all the idols that we worship.
Right.
And I had to like sit and think about that for a second. I was watching it live, but if I wasn't, I totally would have paused and just like sat back and was like, whoa. Because that was like one of those mind-blowing
Blown
things.
away. Yeah.
Like we look at what God did like in the book of Exodus and how he so clearly moved and how he brought his people out, like all the things that happened. And again, we don't know exactly what's going on with everything right now. It's hard to know. There's so much information, misinformation. But when you kind of just put it in those terms of like, people worship sports. That's true. There's no sports right now. People worship like celebrities. We can't see anything about that. People worship security. People worship the idea of his comfort. Like all these things, one by one, with one little thing, one little microscopic thing, all got knocked out.
Completely gone.
That was like, that was a mind-blowing thing. And then now what do we have left to focus on? Well, the thing that doesn't change, that can't be removed, that can't be taken away.
Right. So I think about I got an email the other week, and it was like from like the Tony Evans like organizations, and he was talking about like what to do when God is like speaking to you, or like in another case like shouting. It's just like, and again that like illustration is like, okay, like God is not just like speaking right now, he's probably like shouting, like trying to get like our attention. And I think that it would be naive of us to just like try to move past this so quickly.
Absolutely.
You know, so, and I think that that's what people are trying to do. A lot of people are like, okay, we just got to move past this. We just got to move past this. We just got to move past this. And it's again like, okay, if God removed like all of these things, what I see happening is like, okay, God stopped like the sports, like the idols of like the sports industry, but they're doing everything they can to get like things like started back up, or to get like their attention like back on them. You know, one of my buddies just sent me something the other day that said that there's an organization that's putting together like and for the NFL, and all for each team they're putting together like all of like the best players that have ever played for the franchise, and they're like they're gonna make those teams play each other like in Madden in a tournament, and then they're gonna like televise it, right? So like this is again like, okay, you don't have like football to watch, but we're gonna give you something. You know, you don't have
that sounds pretty cool.
You know, like, absolutely. Like and like movies are like, okay, well you're stuck at home, so like we'll just push movies out like sooner. You know, it's just like if the movie theater's closed, you know, I mean as Christians, this is how we should look at it. If the movie theater's closed, we shouldn't be rushing to go try to find like the next movie that we can watch. Yeah, we could fill that gap with. If the sports industry closed, we shouldn't be rushing to go find out like go watch all of the highlights of all of the old like videos that we watch, because that's what I'm seeing on my timeline. Like, like every single video or like every single like game that's ever been played, like they're going through and like posting these things, and it's because they're trying to fill that like because you know if God closed this door, then like you know we're trying to fill it with other stuff. And again, I think that it's important for us to not move past that too quickly, to just like, okay, let's just go about it and see, like really spend this time to focus and connect and turn our attention back towards Him.
Yeah, I think because one of the biggest idols we have, I think, is like comfort and familiarity, and just we're used to that, I mean, especially in our society.
The United States.
Yeah, totally. So I think looking at that, like I think back again to Israel and Egypt. Like even when they came out, it was uncomfortable, it was different, it was changed. So right away they're like, it wasn't that bad back in Egypt.
Yeah,
it wasn't that bad. The whole we were slave thing, it wasn't that bad.
Like,
we had 3 squares, it wasn't that bad. So they wanted to go back to something that was familiar and comfortable, rather than risk what God had for them. That was unknown, and that was new, and that was different.
Right.
And that's not to say that all of everything happening isn't like scary and isn't confusing. And like I have family and friends who have been laid off and lost their jobs, and that's all horrible and sad. So we're not diminishing that.
No.
But I think like you're saying, one thing I've been thinking about is it's so easy to look at this as like a nuisance, as like how do we get back to what was normal?
Right.
And when I say like, I keep saying too, we're going to get back to normal in the sense of we'll be able to go outside, we'll be able to congregate, those kind of things. But that's one thing I'm worried about, kind of concerned of, if we're just going to try to jump back into exactly the way it was. And I don't think that this just happened for no reason. I think there's something that God can bring out of this, wants to bring out of this, and I think we just need to have ears that are open to it.
Absolutely.
Rather than just ignoring what might be happening.
And I think that the reason why we don't or didn't is because of like all of the distractions that we had before.
Yeah.
And so removing all of those and now again turning our attention back to Him is really important at this time.
Or how about just the idol of busyness?
Oh.
I mean, so often it's like, I mean, I can say for myself
even
too.
as pastors,
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not as busy. And it's like, well, what was I feeling that time with? There's lots of things that we did, but it's kind of just helps you refocus and just kind of get a more narrow view of like what really matters, what's really significant, what's really important.
Yeah.
Because it's not all these things happening. Someone said, I can't remember who it was now, but like all those excuses of like, I don't have time to read my Bible, I don't have time to pray, I don't have time to connect with people, I'm just too busy. All those excuses are gone now. So
all gone.
If we're still not doing it, that wasn't the reason.
That wasn't the reason. All gone.
You gotta kind of reprioritize some stuff for sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting to see just in the unfolding weeks, months, and years what actually comes out of this. What we can glean from it.
I agree.
I'm not saying the whole thing's good, but I'm just saying there can be good that can come.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And I think that again, if we aren't careful to try to see that, then we're gonna be missing the point.
Yeah, I agree.
Missing the point. So one of the things that I wrote down, and this was kind of challenging one is he talked about the passions of the flesh. And I don't know if he said this or where I got this from, but bodily desires aren't wrong in and of themselves. I think maybe I wrote this down. But can be perverted by man's sinful nature, and there's like sinful war waging inside of us. And so again, like the idea that that like our passions, even for connecting with one another, they are not like necessarily like bad, but it's our like sinful nature that can pervert those passions of like connecting to others and make them bad. I mean, a perfect example of like is like watching a movie in and of itself is not bad, but if you worship the movies that you watch and you spend all of your time watching movies instead of spending time with the Lord, then that's where it can become bad. The same thing, like a desire, a bodily desire for another person is not in and of itself a bad thing. Those are inherent, innate desires that we get put inside of us. It's the things that it's our own like sinful nature. If even making that type of thing an idol, that can be like bad, or that can make that go from like just being something that your body normally naturally does to something that can become sinful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's any of those things that we look at that, like I said so many times, like sin is just getting something good in the wrong way. So it's these things that are good in and of themselves, but when we go about getting those things, achieving those things in a way that isn't honoring to God, then we're entering into sin.
Right.
So we have to look at not only what is our goal that we're going after, but how are we getting there?
Yeah.
Like, the easy example is always like, well, food's good. Stealing food's wrong. Like, it's like, it's pretty clear cut. But we obviously need food, so that's a normal, natural thing.
Right.
Usually, a lot of times, those things we're going after are kind of like neutral. They can be good or bad. It's just how we go after them, how we respond to them.
Yeah.
And one of those things. Yeah. That's the last thing I had written down too. The desire of the flesh versus desire of the spirit. That's like a huge thing to think about. That I think the way he said it was the desires of the flesh are warring against the desires of the spirit, but the desires of the spirit are warring against the desires of the flesh also. So it's like this battle there. I think it was probably gonna get it wrong. I think it was Chief Sitting Bull. I think that basically said there's like a good dog and a bad dog, like an evil dog inside of him, and they're like fighting all the time over like who's going to be in control. So someone says like, well, which one wins? So whichever one I feed the most. So the good one, the bad one, whatever we feed the most in a Christian sense, looking at it, whatever we feed the spirit or the flesh, whatever we feed the most is the one that's going to win. So we can feed the spiritual side by the word, prayer, community with fellow believers, even from a distance. All these different ways we can feed that and pour into that, and that side will be then built up. Or we can just feed our fleshly side and just focus on that, and that side will be built up.
That side will be built up. Yeah.
We have a choice.
We'll be like dogs returning to our vomit.
Yeah, which is just so gross. But they do that. Disgusting. Yeah.
So I wrote down one more thing, and he talked about believers making people around us ready for Christ. And by ready, it's either like a good thing or a bad thing again. So like we can make people around us ready for God's judgment, by not helping them understand and see Christ, or we can help people around us be like ready for be ready for Christ and like God's mercy because they've like received Him and accepted Him. So essentially, like everyone around us, like literally, no matter what you're doing, you're making people around you ready for Christ.
Yeah.
But are you making them ready for His judgment or making them ready for His mercy? And I was just like, man, I guess I never did that. So essentially, like even like the person who you're like ignoring or don't like help, like you are doing something.
Yeah.
And that something is like allowing them to just receive God's judgment. And I was just like, that hurt.
Yeah, totally. We're either like bringing people to or pushing people away. It's like we're it makes more sense. Let's open the avenues. Let's bring people towards. Emily said that she has a friend from college who's seeking God in the community she now sees in the church because of this virus. She's been praying for a year, and this virus is what God's using to draw her to Himself.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
So again, it's like we can't say that this virus is good because I don't think it is. It's obviously causing a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, but it's again the reminder that God can bring good from even things that are negative.
Absolutely.
And so looking at it's like God can bring good out of this. God can bring good out of anything. Not that the thing in and of itself feels good or is good, but God can bring good. And I think that's what he's going to be doing and what he is doing.
Yeah. I think that I just think about like Jesus saying that like only God is good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so if only he's good, then he can bring like good out of
Absolutely.
anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think the example with Jesus is like the ultimate example of that. Like, how could someone dying and being crucified and tortured, how can anything good come from that?
Right.
Like, well, let me show you.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We got the greatest thing out of that. We got the gospel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks, guys, for sticking with it. And we totally forgot the YouTube watching audience over here when this gets posted. Thank you as well. Hopefully we get those, whatever, fixed and figured out for next time.
yeah.
But at least we were able to hang out a little bit, talk to you guys, and something worked.
Yeah. Yeah. We made it work when
Being flexible.
it didn't seem like it was going to.
That's like the theme of all of this, I think. It's just like rolling with whatever goes and like, well, that didn't work.
You gotta be flexible.
Build a plane as we fly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. We love you guys. Bye.
See ya.